Okay, welcome to today's showcase. You will notice a few different things on screen. There's a lot of createds and a lot of grabs. I'm going to explain all of that in a second, but for right now, focus on me, because that's not really that important, at least not right now. So there are a few things I want to talk about with you guys. First being, we do have some news about the new base. I'm not going to be showing that off yet because it's still in a sketch phase. It's not actually in the actual first of all, it's not finished, and second of all, I haven't actually implemented it because it obviously isn't finished. So that's something we're going to be working on. Other than that, though, I did want to tell you guys just about stuff going on in general. The first of which being, aside from the base, which I think is really good, by the way. I think it's a huge improvement. Anyway, so the whole optimization thing, the reason I was doing all of those crazy performance optimizations for projectiles and everything, I thought that the reason that projectiles were lagging when they hit enemies sometimes was because of just lag. I thought that the stress of them hitting the enemy was causing the other projectiles to not be able to stand up on their own. But as it happens, younger 6 months ago me is actually just really stupid. What I was doing was deleting the client event, which is what makes it smooth, instead of just removing that specific projectile's client event. So the entire thing was gone. Now I can show you guys what doesn't happen, or rather that doesn't happen, I guess, by hitting a ton of projectiles at the same time. And you're going to notice the thing on the left or the right there, so don't worry about that. But as you can see, literally not even dropping a single frame per second. And something to keep in mind here is also I changed it back so that Whirlwind deletes as it was created. That's not for any particular reason. I just thought it looks a little bit better that way. But anyway, to explain a couple different things here. First of all, fantastic, because I did all those optimizations and I was still having that stuttering issue, which wasn't even dropping frames. It was just causing that stuttering, which happened to not be lag. It was just deleting the client events, which is again what makes it look smooth. So that's completely fixed. So projectiles are in a fantastic place right now. The fact that that's what it was, that I won't go too much into detail, but I was basically missing a character in the code. So the fact that that was the bug that was bugging me, no pun intended, for 6+ months. Pro, we have a ton of optimization done for the projectiles. They're basically capable of being infinitely spawned. Con, my sanity is being degraded by the second. However, I'm still really happy about everything that happened. So, you know, the pro kind of outweighs the con, even if it does kind of drive me crazy. Second of all, you see on the right side, ton of createds, right? What does created mean? Well, I did some testing with the object pooling system, and there were some bugs with that. So this past week, just in general, I've done a ton of bug fixes. There's new stuff too, but for the most part, not for the most part, but half and half, I would say. I've been doing a ton of different things to make sure that the game's kind of running stably and everything, because we don't really need a huge amount in terms of code right now. Because I'm kind of trying to prep for the beta. I'm prepping up in the sense that I'm buying a ton of art assets, as well as trying to make everything as performant as possible. That way we don't have to think about, dropping $120 on servers when we could pay maybe 40 or something instead. That's, kind of roundabout concern considering how much art can cost. It's really expensive, but, you understand, right? Or you understand my concern at least. So, other than that, I've been kind of just fleshing stuff out, and one of the things that I was looking into was object pooling. So object pooling, to give you guys kind of quick rundown before you guys get too bored and leave, object pooling would create things, and then it was having this issue where when it was trying to grab them back from the pool again, it would basically just teleport them off into null space, literally into a null location. That's a big no-no, because it would then try to interpolate back from null space, which sounds like a really scientific thing. Interpolating from null space is like, it almost sounds like the title of a sci-fi book, but trust me in that it's just not a good thing. It just looks really stupid, and it doesn't do anything good. So what I've done is implement a timer, and this is actually an efficient version of a timer. It just tracks when it was pooled and when it was taken from the pool. So if it's under 5 seconds, it won't allow it to be pulled back from the pool. So it has to be in the pool for at least 5 seconds, and if it's not, then it will instead just pass over it and create a new object, which is why you see so many created. So if I go back and now hit the same exact spells, you'll see it says grabbed instead. And the reason for this is because they already exist and they're all over 5 seconds old. So throughout this entire thing, oh, and you know what, Missile Flurry isn't actually using the pooling system yet. That's as simple as changing new deob to new from pool. quite literally that simple. But anyway, that's beside the point. You get the idea. So now there's kind of a lower bar, which doesn't make much of a difference. It just makes sure that that bug isn't allowed to persist, I guess, if that makes sense. Um, so that's cool. We do have some more stuff going on. Up here, you'll notice there are some tabs. So first of all, this is no different. You won't notice much change here. This was moved around a little bit, so this is a little bit different, and you can see that obviously these spells are still lit up because those are the ones I purchased prior to this showcase. But you're probably most interested in these tabs up here. So obviously there's nothing else going on. But anyway, what I've done is implement the weapon spell tree. What I'm calling it right now is the weaponry spell tree. Makes sense. And right now we have bows, spears, and swords. I was talked to about this, and before I show you guys, just to let you know, I am thinking about making them a little bit less specific. I think that we're going to go with maybe like blades and then kind of like pole arms, maybe, that kind of thing. That way they're way more general. That way if you feel like maybe using a pole arm or a halberd or whatever else instead of a spear, you can, and it doesn't really have that implication that you're not really using the correct weapon. And it also gives me some flexibility. The only thing I want to clarify in that before I show you guys everything is that if we do go with the blades and if we do go with spears, then in the future it'll be specified. So while we might have blades now, I could probably separate that into short swords for what we have right now for quote-unquote blades, and then in the future we could also have the dagger and then maybe like a great sword tree as well. So that way you have 3 different options, and we can kind of specify that way. So you can have different weapons, you just have different spell trees. But for right now, they're all going to be under the same tree. Without further ado, I'm going to go in here. So we can go outside here for right now. That's not really that big of... Oh, so this is freaked out because obviously there's nothing over here to actually fill the info in on. And in addition to that, there is no spell attached to these yet. So these are just the icons, and I hope you guys appreciate what I've done with these because I'm actually kind of a big fan. I like the way that they have their own stylized colors and everything, and that's a feature that I kind of, not a feature, but a kind of tasteful flavor thing that I want to uphold in the future. So up at the top, this is for the sword or blade, whatever. This is for the spear or polearm, and this is for the bow. Or archer, I guess. So what I'm planning to do with this is in the future we'll have this rearranged. We'll have to rearrange this, but it's really not that big a deal. If you guys watch my most recent code showcase, I show off how easy it is to make this, how to rearrange this, I should say. Making one of these isn't exactly easy, but I've done some revamping to make that not exactly true. So it is substantially simpler. But either way, what we have going on here is the same thing we have going on in the main elemental tree. And just so you know, that is what this is called now. This is the elemental tree. And this is the weaponry tree, like I said, and then this is the racial tree. It's obviously empty right now, but you know, you get the idea. Everything that works in the normal tree works here, so I can right-click to jump back to the center. And there aren't any tabs here right now, but in the future we'll probably shove some weapons onto the tabs so you can jump to each tree. Right now there's not really a reason. Obviously in the elemental tree it's much more useful because the tree is huge. And actually, you know what, I gotta say, I'm actually pretty proud of where we are with navigating this thing. It's actually quite smooth, in my opinion, as far as, you know, going from one side to the other. Like, if you want to find fire and you can't find it, it's very simple to just go there. And say you want to get rid of it, the thing or whatever, you just right-click and it does that automatically. So I'm really proud of how that's gone. Just, you know, the state allowed. So just so you know, the same functions will work over here. We just don't have tabs yet. If you guys are curious as to what each of these spells are, the first 2, I think I've stated a couple times, the first 2 for each of the weapon branches is going to be pretty simple, and in the future when you get another one for each of the trees, because I'd like to have 4 per at least, we're going to have the first 3 be pretty basic. So this is just going to be a straight arrow, and I'll show you guys what I'm thinking for the arrow. I haven't actually gotten super in-depth on the regular arrow shot yet, because that's actually how I figured out the pooling bug, as well as the other bug I was talking about that was driving me crazy. This one's a homing arrow, so this one will fire at the enemy's location when you click the spell. So it's not really guaranteed to hit, but it can, obviously. The homing shot will have a much longer cooldown, and this will have a short cooldown for the record, but the homing shot will have a much longer cooldown, obviously, but will fire a more powerful bolt that will also home in on the target. The ultimate, or quote unquote cornerstone spell, as I'm calling each of the big spells in these trees, is going to be Heart Piercer. So Heart Piercer, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I'm taking a lot of inspiration from Fate for these weapon trees or whatever. The reason for that isn't necessarily that I love Fate. Fate isn't actually like one of my favorite animes. It's actually more like just that there aren't really a ton of animes with really weapon specific kind of spells or powers. Fate is really good for that because obviously they have the Noble Phantasms, and I think that a lot of them are pretty good to take inspiration from. So what I'm looking for Heart Piercer is actually something similar to Gay Bulg, the classic Gay Bulge. um, I really can't mention that name without saying that because I'm sure someone else will, so might as well beat it to the punch. But whatever the case, if you guys have ever seen the anime, basically he throws a spear, and when it's thrown into the air, it will make these geometric right and left 90-degree-ish turns, and then it'll home in on its target's heart. I think that's a really cool effect, how it darts through the air and makes these right kind of geometric turns. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do that. It's going to require some interesting math because I'm kind of going away from smoothness and going towards these weird geometric right angles and everything, but I think it'll look really good, especially because it'll look kind of alien and strange and very magical in nature. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then when it hits the target, it'll explode. I think that I'm actually going to repurpose the sprite I had made for what was previously going to be Pierce the Sky for the spear tree, which is now also different, and I'm going to use that for the arrow in here instead. And then up here is the sword tree, and this is actually going to be pretty basic. I think that I want this to be the kind of average tree that most people will go into. So this is a strike. This is basically going to be like a kind of hit that you dash forward beforehand. This will be Rend, which will inflict a bleed, and it's kind of like a sweep attack. And then you'll have Executioner's Ring, which is the spell I mentioned last time, which is it summons the swords in a ring around your opponent. Pope made sure to tell me to mention this, by the way, that it does actually inherit from your sword sprite. We only have one sword sprited right now, so I can't really show that off, unfortunately. But it does just grab whichever sprite you're using for your sword. The reason it's the other sword that was shown without my actually having a sword is because if you don't have a sword right now, it just defaults to that sprite. In the future, you just won't be able to use the spell if you don't have a sword equipped in the first place, so that's not actually a true default. It's just like what I'm using as a placeholder for right now until we get more swords spreaded, but you get the idea. So for spears, and I kind of glossed over swords because I've already kind of talked about them a lot, and I think that most people will kind of get what I mean. They're very common spells, and I want them to be pretty common spells. I want people to have this kind of comfort, standard, average-ish tree to go into if they aren't feeling too confident, but also want something reliable, right? Spears are going to be a little bit different. Lunge is going to be, they're going to be kind of skill shot based instead of just being reliable, which both archery or bows, whatever, and swordsmanship are. So swordsmanship is kind of like a mobile melee skill tree, whereas archery is intended to be a sort of fast-paced, low cooldown, high damage output tree. Low mobility, but high damage output. Spears are going to be the kind of specialist in this group. And a lot of people have different opinions about spears. I know that spears are definitely the ones people are most excited for. I guess maybe tied with bows, but the first up is lunge. So lunge is going to be a straightforward, literally straightforward skill shot. It'll be a very quick jab forward. It's going to be kind of similar to arrow shot here, which will be essentially just this low cooldown kind of jab forward. It's not necessarily your bread and butter damage, but it'll certainly kind of eke its way in there. This is going to be blinding jabs. Blinding jabs is going to be, I don't know if you guys have seen Pantheon's rework, or if you've seen Mars in Dota, Pantheon League, Mars Dota. Basically, it's just going to be a bunch of spear shots right in front of you. It's kind of like a close range, sort of like a sweep, except it's going to do a lot of ticks really fast, and I think it's also going to apply a bleed. I'm not 100% yet. And then Sky Shatter. Sky Shatter, not settled on. If you guys want to give me any ideas for that, feel free to let me know. Previously, this is going to be Pierce the Sky. Pierce the Sky's icon is probably going to be reworked into Heart Piercer, like I said, but I'm not entirely settled on that. If it isn't, or maybe I can use the same icon or something like that, I might be able to work out an effect myself, maybe something that doesn't necessarily require an icon that still looks pretty cool. Either way, I think that one's going to be, I want that to be a very powerful ability, because Executioner's Ring isn't necessarily a skill shot. It definitely doesn't guarantee you a land, so you still want to stun someone before it. And Heart Piercer is a homing shot, so it's definitely not a skill shot, even if it is a little bit wonky in the way that it homes. So Sky Shatter, I want to kind of reflect the Spear Tree. I want that to be a very specialist-ish spell. I want it to not necessarily be easy to land or hard to land. I want it to be rewarding either way. Um, so I want it to be hard hitting. I want it to be emulating the kind of feel of the tree, and I want it to be a straightforward skill shot. So if you guys have any ideas for that, as extravagant as they can be, feel free to let me know. If they're too extravagant, I'll probably say something. If not, I might not say something because if they're too common, then not very exciting. But either way, feel free to let me know if you guys have seen any cool anime scenes or whatever else. Those are always great inspiration. Otherwise, I think that I'll always be able to come up with spell concepts, but since I didn't really settle on this one yet before this showcase, I figured I would let that one be up to you guys. Um, so, yeah. I think that that's everything with the spell tree. I apologize for going off on a little bit of a tangent with what I intend for those spells, but frankly, I thought it would be kind of interesting to show you guys everything that I was thinking there and get your feedback on all that. So, I know you guys have a lot of bold opinions on weapons. I was going to say melee, but obviously bows are there. But anyway, I think that's everything. The only other thing I haven't mentioned is targeting. Previously, there was this tiny bug with targeting where if you tried to target when there weren't any targets in range, it would give you an error. That's been fixed. Not really going to show that off. It's not really exciting or anything, but actually, it wouldn't even show anything at all, and I would have to run away from everything. So that's whatever. I'm not going to focus on it too hard. Other than that, I think we're good. To keep you guys updated, we are getting the crawler sprites done for walking. So the idle states are done, which look amazing. I love them. They're actually my favorite monster sprite so far. Crystal Golem has new idle animations too. Those are very simple, but they look better than the current ones in my opinion. The crawler, like I said, has walk sprites, so that one will be implemented soon. We do have NPC death. I want to add some effects on it though. I think Baz in the Discord server said something about it, and I said I would have it implemented today. I do. Like, they literally do disappear on death, and I would show you that, but they are really tanky now. They literally have like 100,000 HP. But either way, they aren't anything special. They just kind of disappear. I want a little bit more flair to that. I might end up getting the death animations, or not death animations, but death sprites done. Or I might have like a little gold ching sound or something for rewards. I'm not sure. But either way, I got them implemented. I just didn't finish them and flesh them out fully, so I'm not really looking to show that off yet. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys are excited to see everything here, because I certainly am. I'm really excited to implement all these different spells. I know I said on the Patreon that it would take 750 to get there, and I wasn't really lying in that. I am kind of overspending a little bit, but I know you guys really want to see melee spells, so I figured it was worth the extra effort, especially because we're already getting the base redone and everything. I feel like we should just get it all done at once. It feels a lot more satisfying that way. So either way, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys look forward to the next showcase. Hope you have a good day. Bye.